Good morning. Today's service is going to be best appreciated if you are inhabiting your body. So we're going to start with a song, and we're going to invite you all to clap along with us. Coming home to the wisdom in my bones. Oops.
Good morning. Welcome to the home of Unitarian Universalism in North Central Washington. My name is Marya Madsen. I am his daughter and her daughter and her mom. I'll be your celebrant this morning. Our worship leader is Lynn Madsen. If you are a visitor this morning, there's a reason for this here. If you are a visitor this morning, we are so glad that you're here. We welcome every person of goodwill, just as you are. I see people I haven't seen in a while. Whatever your body you inhabit, whomever you love, whatever your age, you are welcome here. We invite everyone to continue our communion following the service with coffee and conversation, both in person and on Zoom. We will have a discussion group about 15 minutes after the end of the service for those who are interested. There are some discussion questions in the order of service that you might ponder with your friends during the coffee hour as well. I did find them. They're at the sort of the top of the inside right page. For the folks on Zoom, you'll find the order of service, lyrics for the songs, and the words we say together. Did I skip something? Do you want me to read the question? Okay. You'll find it on the chat. And for everyone in our building, please take a moment to turn and wave to everyone on Zoom. And now, please take a moment and greet those around you today, especially someone you don't know well. Beautiful here today, that's fantastic. We have a couple announcements from Rita about the Circle Supper and post-auction information, and then Steve from the New Building Task Force.
Good morning, everyone. I feel like I'm the good witch this week. Just wanted to tell you all that our auction was a huge success. We raised over $11,000. Yeah, give yourselves a hand. And again, I just want to thank everybody that volunteered, that donated, and that purchased items. And we're going to have a lot of fun throughout the year because of the things that were offered in the auction. And in the announcements, there's also something about the Circle Supper that's coming up on Saturday, and it says it's an ugly sweater Circle Supper. But you can attend even if you don't have an ugly sweater, just come as you are. See you then.
Good morning. You should all have received an information sheet from the New Building Task Force. This information sheet is the beginning of our exploration of a final preferred alternative. Our idea is that for the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to make sure everyone has an information sheet. We're going to make sure everyone has an opportunity to ask questions about that information sheet. And then we will release a survey. We're going to do another survey. Why? Because we had one after the forum, but we had 27 responses. All right, we have 105 to 110 members. We want to know what you want us to do and why. After we get that survey back, we'll have a congregational meeting. That won't be until January or February when we'll actually explore the alternatives more, and we hope to have a vote on the way that you wish us to proceed. All right, thank you.
Our fellowship is located on the ancestral home of the Pescosa. For thousands of years, the Pescosa have lived here, making a vibrant way of life and a rich culture from the land, the beginnings and human neighbors with whom they shared it. Oh, let me try again. He changes it every time. For thousands of years, the Pescosa have lived here, making a vibrant way of life and a rich culture from the land, the beings, and human neighbors with whom they shared it. In 2009, without consulting any of the affected people, Congress passed a resolution to acknowledge a long history of official depredations and ill-conceived policies by the federal government regarding Indian tribes. The resolution began, whereas the arrival of Europeans in North America opened a new chapter in the history of Native peoples. Layali Long Soldier, an Oglala poet and activist, wrote poems in response to that resolution and the lack of consultation. This one is called, Whereas My Eyes Landed on the Shoreline. Whereas my eyes land on the shoreline of the arrival of Europeans in North America opened a new chapter in the history of Native peoples, because in others, I hate the act of laughing when hurt, injured, or in cases of danger, that bitter hiding. My daughter picks up new habits from friends. She'd been running, tripped, slid on knees and palms into asphalt. They carried her into the kitchen. She just fell, she's bleeding.
On Bluetooth,
Deep
because
red
I tried.
streams down her arms and legs, trails on white tile. I looked at her face. A smile quivered her. A laugh, a nervous doing as her friends do. She braved new behavior, feigned a grin. I couldn't name it, but I could spot it. Stop, my girl, if you're hurting, cry. Like that, she let it out, a flood from living room to bathroom, then a soft water pour I carefully washed. Light touch, clean cotton to bandage. I faced her, I reminded, in our home, in our family, we are ourselves, real feelings. Be true. Yet I'm serious when I say I laugh reading the phrase, opened a new chapter. I can't help my body. I shake. The realization that it took this phrase to show my daughter's quivering isn't new, but a deep practice, very old. She's watching me. Now let us rise in body and spirit to sing our opening song, Walls Come Tumbling Down.
So we decided, team, that we would explore the new Article 2 adopted by the Unitarian Universalist Association this past summer. Every month we will be exploring a new principle and covenant. For this month, the principle and covenant apply to justice. This is how it reads. We work to be a diverse, multicultural, beloved community where we all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large. Justice. So, what do feelings, what do sensitive people, what does crying have to do with social justice? I'll see if I can help you understand it the way I do. Our call to worship today comes from two people. First, from Albert Einstein. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And then from Glennon Doyle. I'm not a mess, but a deeply feeling person in a messy world. I explain that now. When someone asks me why I cry so often, I say, for the same reason I laugh so often, because I'm paying attention. I tell them that we can choose to be perfect and admired, or to be real and loved. We must decide. Let us worship.
The microphone, Patty. Or Julie, turn it off.
The chalice and flame symbolizes our congregation gathered in principles and faith. If you at home have your chalice with you, please join me now in lighting it. Here in the sanctuary, we will speak these lighting words in unison. May the sacred flame clear our vision so we can see the shadows in our hearts, recognize the pain of others, face the troubles in the world, and hold it all in love and grace. Today we have readings which...
We have a story first.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
There's a story first.
Good. Testing 1, 2. Thank you. So this is a story from the time before time. It's based on a proverb, a Native American proverb, attributed to a wide variety of peoples, called "The frog does not drink up the pond in which it lives." So, and now we can sing our children to the classes. So if we'll form an arch, we'll sing anyway, even if nobody wants to go through. With each other to find meaning.
There it is. Sorry, Arius. Today we have readings which form a dialectic. Two ideas or propositions, seemingly paradoxical, mutually exclusive, and yet, when held in tension, can lead us to a deeper truth or understanding. First, from the Enlightenment. All our knowledge begins with the senses, proceeds then to the understanding, and ends with reason. There is nothing higher than reason. Immanuel Kant. Religion is something left over from the infancy of our intelligence. It will fade away as we adopt reason and science as our guidelines. Bertrand Russell. And from a different perspective, no one should approach the temple of science with the soul of a money changer. Thomas Brown. Our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. Martin Luther King, Jr. Finally, 3 short poems from Naira Waid on showing our pain. Number 7, on being honest about your pain. Fall apart, please. Just fall apart. Open your mouth and hurt. Hurt the size of everything it is. 4, on what happens when our culture makes it hard for men to express their feelings. There have been so many times I have seen a man wanting to weep, but instead beat his heart until it was unconscious. masculine. Available. If I have never seen you cry, if you do not cry, if you do not value or respect the needs of your water, you and I cannot form. If you cannot allow your own being to wash over you, how will mine ever make it past your skin? I invite the people sitting along the center aisle, though we did that already, just confusing me left and right. All right, we've gone with the spirit of our love, and now Lynn will, is this right? Sharing and honoring, sorry.
We are all of us, responsible for the caring ministry of our fellowship. Throughout the month, our congregational care team works to encourage and coordinate the work of that ministry. The care team representative today is Oliver. Oh, Barb, all right. You can tell her of any needs you have or are aware of. You can also fill out one of the contact cards, which can be found in the pouch at the back of the chairs or in the rear of the sanctuary. Thank you, Ronnie. As part of that communal ministry, we take time every week to give folks an opportunity to share events or experiences that have moved them in a deep, personal way. This is a time of reverence, an opportunity to open the door to a deeper connection. It's a time for the fellowship to create and hold space for those of us who choose to share. If there is something on your heart you wish to share, come forward, say your name, light a candle, and tell us in a sentence or two what has happened to you and how it affected you. So, the tyranny of reason. What are we talking about here? So, every day I go to work, and people come to me with their problems. And ever since I began this work, one of the things that I encounter are stories, largely from women, but also certainly from children, from men, of people who have been humiliated in public, people who have had bad experiences at work or at school or even in their families. But today we're going to talk about the social world, the business world, the public world, in which if they show their pain, they are made fun of or they are excluded. I mean, you all know this. You all know that this is true. We do not allow or permit the display of strong emotion in our public sphere. Right? We all know, okay, so everybody knows this. What do we call a woman who gets mad in public? Shrub. Really? That's right. That's right. Or crazy. Yeah. Part of the way that I've been thinking about this, though, is inspired by and informed by an article I read from the 1619 Project about the economics, about the capitalism, the way it is practiced in the United States. There's a brilliant, brilliant exposition of the way that the practices of slavery have been carried forward in our economic system. The fact that we treat labor as an expendable and replaceable commodity. The fact that we consider how do we maximize the productivity of the individual worker in terms of the way it affects the bottom line. Right? And then they did a beautiful job of bringing forward some of the documents from the period when slavery was prevalent, showing the list of the slaves, their expected productivity, the ways in which they could be encouraged or required to reach their maximum productivity, an amortization schedule about when their value would start to decline. And that has been informing my thinking about how we understand systemic abuse and oppression for a long time. Recently, I've been hearing more and more of these stories from my clients. I heard one just the other day about a woman, a physician, who was in a meeting. And she had been being, what she felt to be was harassed at work by some colleagues. And when she tried to talk about it with them, she was told to get over it. When she tried to bring it up in a meeting in front of the supervisor, the manager of that portion of the clinic, she cried and she was told that that was not helpful. They scheduled another meeting and she was excluded. She was not invited to the meeting. And when she asked why, she was told, well, we figured you'd probably cry again. Okay. We have had this notion since the Enlightenment, and it's badly framed. The people in the Enlightenment, Immanuel Kant, Brown, these people knew and understood that we have to have both our reason and our emotion. But I think in much the same way that slavery infected the formation of capitalism in the United States, we have misapplied what the Age of Reason was trying to teach us and understand about science and reason and the role of reason in a public sphere, in the development of our culture. Here's Friedrich Nietzsche, right? A great thinker, certainly someone who valued reason. One ought to hold on to one's heart, for if one lets it go, one soon loses control of the head too. Okay. So I'm going to try not to make this a workshop, but I want to talk about the neuroscience here. What are we talking about? When we are talking about reason, what are we talking about in terms of our nervous system? Can we have the next slide? We have two hemispheres. They largely do not work together. They largely take turns, and they're often fighting over who is going to be in control. The part of our nervous system, the part of our brain that synthesizes information is our prefrontal cortex. That's the part that has the power of self-observation. And it takes the information from both of those, examines it, and then makes a determination. What do I pay attention to? What's important? But as we can see, the left brain, analysis, logic, idea, facts, it is largely language-based. And the thing about the left hemisphere is that it is relentless in pursuing a linear cause-effect explanation for everything. And it really doesn't care about accuracy. The left hemisphere, when paralyzed, or when the right hemisphere is paralyzed and not allowed to participate, will make something up. You will then feel as though it is self-evident, and it will be extremely difficult to dislodge it. The other thing about the left hemisphere is that it only sees things in parts. It never sees the whole picture. The right hemisphere, creativity, intuition, the arts, emotion, sensitivity. The right hemisphere apprehends the world all at once and distills information in this very implicit fashion, right? This is the thing that lets you know when you walk in the room what's going on without ever hearing a word. You walk into a room and you can tell. You can feel what is going on in the other people. Right? That's right hemisphere. It distills this information, takes a gestalt of the entire world. Okay. Next slide, please. These are pictures, and this is horrible. So they used to cut the corpus callosum, which is the band of connective tissue that connects the hemispheres, for people with certain seizure disorders. Another thing they did, which I don't know if they could do now, was they would inject sodium pentothal into your carotid artery, either on the left side or the right, and that would immobilize one or the other side of the brain. And then we could see what they do when they're completely independent. These are pictures drawn by the left hemisphere with the right hemisphere disenabled. Okay. As you can see, they are not largely representative. They are very distorted. The left hemisphere only sees part of the story. So, what is the problem here? Why is it that we do not allow? Why do we not allow people to cry? Why do we not allow people to get emotional? Why do we not consider how people feel about things when we are making decisions in business? Okay. One reason, Alexander Lowen gives us. It is a grave injustice to a child or an adult to insist that they stop crying. One can comfort a person who is crying, which enables her to relax and makes further crying unnecessary. But to humiliate a crying child is to increase her pain and augment her rigidity. We stop other people from crying because we cannot stand the sounds and movements of their bodies. It threatens our own rigidity, and it induces similar feelings in ourselves which we dare not express, and it evokes a resonance in our bodies which we resist. Right? We don't want to feel those tears. We do not want to be reminded of what it means that we are in the presence of someone who is crying. How did they get that way? So why is this a social justice issue? Can we have the next slide, please? Right, when we see someone like this is somewhat ambiguous. What is the response? When you see someone with that kind of an expression on their face, what is the response? It's okay, you can say something. You want to lean in. You want to lean in. That is the normal human response. Social animals, when we see signals of distress, they are indicators that as members of the group, we should lean in, we should tend, we should take care of. Okay? But we don't do that a lot of the time. Can we have the next slide? Have a look at that. Oh, you can't read it? Oh, well, let me do that then. This is advice from an HR professional for women who cry at work. Men and women who see the women crying at work react the same way. Crying at work might not hurt your reputation if coworkers think you're dealing with a difficult personal issue or a tough work situation. Otherwise, crying can hurt your reputation because coworkers may think you are weak, unprofessional, or manipulative. If you can't stop crying, leave. Don't disrupt work. Apologize to people who saw you cry and make it clear you tried to stop. It might help to counter false perceptions that you are being manipulative. How many of you have encountered this? Last month?
Oh, okay. No, I mean, was this?
This is recent.
Okay.
Okay, it's still going on. All right, this, and so that when we're thinking about whether or not this is a systemic problem, one of the questions that we have to ask is, who benefits? Who benefits? Right? Who benefits from suppressing? And what is it that occurs when we suppress this emotion, when we do not show our signs of distress in these processes? What happens? Right? Those in power, those who are making the decisions, those who are in charge of the business or the organization are not forced to confront the evidence of what their choices are doing to the people that they affect. We don't have to deal with the pain that we are causing people. Right? This is the frog story. This is the frog story. We got our eye on the prophet. We got our eye on what is the problem we are trying to solve. And we are leaving out the emotional effect, the social effect, the disenfranchisement. And who does this affect? These policies, this attitude that the culture has, who does it affect? Everybody. Who does it affect more than other people? Women, children, right? Anybody vulnerable, anybody on the margins, right? You can't play the race card, right? If you are in an organization and you are a minority in a largely majority culture business, not okay to play the race card. Not okay. Not okay to cry. Not okay to show your distress. And I invite you to imagine, what would it look like if instead of ignoring that, if instead of not allowing evidence of distress to be addressed, we did allow those things? How would it affect our policies, our social policies? How would it affect our environmental choices? What if someone, a member of a team, was allowed to say, the way my friend Martha used to, and it drove me crazy for a while, and then I saw the wisdom of it. She would say, I'm not ready to move on this yet. I think there's something wrong. She could not articulate it, but she would squat down and not move, figuratively, until she figured out what it was that was bothering her. Right? And almost all the time, it was something significant. It was something that needed to be addressed. I was thinking about this the other day. I was talking to one of my clients, a very sensitive woman, and she was struggling with this. Had to her little brother torturing the family cat when she was a child. It bothered her. She would cry about it, and then she would get told by her brother it doesn't matter, and she would also be told by her parents, Don't. You're overreacting. Okay. And I realized, and this is true about me for sure, that those sensitive souls are very often the protectors in our culture. They are the protectors and the healers. They are often the canaries in the coal mine. We ignore them at our peril. And where we end up is, as Martin Luther King said, guided missiles and misguided people. What would our life be like if we folded back in our emotion, our intuition, if we were forced to confront the evidence of pain and distress that our policies and choices were causing. Daniel Pinchbeck. We do whatever we can to deny intuition of the invisible realms. We clog up our senses with smog, jam our minds with media overload. We drown ourselves in alcohol or medicate ourselves into rigidly artificial states. We take pride in our cynicism and detachment. Perhaps we are terrified to discover that our rationality itself is a kind of faith, an artifice, that beneath it lies the vast territory of the unknown. Our benediction today is from Marge Piercy, to be of use. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphores that held corn, that for wine or oil, Hopi voices that held corn, are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real.
And now, as we extinguish our chalice, please join me in saying the words printed in your order of service or on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and embody in our lives until we are together again. Let's join hands in our closing song.